Hello everyone. We are here at World Delhi Book Fair 2026 and today we have with us Mr. Mukul Damle, the author of the book Stars Over Silhouette. It's pleasure to have you, sir. So we'll be having a fun discussion around the book and about the book to know something more on it. So to begin with, I would like to ask that what is the first inner conflict or question that sparked the journey of this protagonist?
Well, I would put it this way that the protagonist is undergoing, a, we all as a youth have certain, emotional burdens. And I think that is what started the main conflict. And also his, um, wanting to further find ways to pursue his life in a certain direction started this conflict. Yeah.
Okay. So the story evolves and moves around across continents. So how did geography shape the emotion of this?
It's a very interesting question. The geography, I mean, the story is set in two continents. Like, it spans across India, and most of the story unfolds in a place like Australia. And Australia has been a very different place, um, especially when the timeline of the novel is concerned. And this eh, the whole conflict, as I've said in the novel, also. I mean, it it is also it is an escape from the protagonist's current circumstances into a very new world, and so into a very new world which has its own aspirations, its own challenges, and also own stories. And the stories were phenomenally different from what the protagonist has been used. And I think that slowly shapes and other things and further progresses the story for the protagonist. And that's how the geography is very important, because both these places have a very different vibe. And over there, it is more about freedom. It was more about, expressing yourself the way you want to. And that has an impact on any individual, especially in the era this book was written. It's not very long ago, but internet was not that popular at that time when this story had started, or as written in the novel, when the protagonist goes there. At the time at which the protagonist goes, the internet is not a very popular medium that time. So you have to find and figure out when you go there. That's when you come to terms with what is over there. So I think geography did play a big role. Yes.
So at what point did you realize that this story was about rediscovering the self rather than escaping it?
So as I said just now, that it was about, you know escaping from the present circumstance of the protagonist. And basically what happens is, in the protagonist's quest for new life, he realizes that, you know uh, he, he has to, in the quest for his new life, he realizes that it's not about just escaping from the present circumstances. It is about, because he kind of starts into a mode of illusions from this new world, and then delusions. So it gets illusional and delusional. So finally, I, as an author, had this, control to make sure or ensure that this whole theme of the story about finding yourself, or this quest for your own inner self, is kept alive, and that retains the main theme of the book. So I think that's, I didn't realize it. It was already a realization from the beginning that this is how the story has to unfold, and there was a theme for the story to be put that way, that he, moves into a different world. He loses as any young people. And basically, this book is about it's about kind of um, you know um, putting forward the realities of contemporary youth who are looking forward to new aspirations or to new places, especially in this case, for instance, is education abroad. It becomes a kind of a medium for him to look forward to a new life. But over there, when it is such a different world, it is by it is quite likely that one can lose himself or herself. And in the quest to find that new life, or to find that new character, or to or to chase that alter ego you may always had within you. So that is what was is the story based on. So it was quite thoughtful, and not just one day I thought that I will make the story that way.
Okay. So, what distractions do you feel that Gen Zs struggle the most today?
I think Gen Z's. I think this book is really good for Gen Z. It has a very important message, because I feel that the Gen Zs are so a bit lost in today's distractions and become delusional about life, because I think they've had it on their plate a bit easier than what our generations had. And so that becomes the life becomes a big deal. Like, what's the big deal about it for them? Even they have iPhones, they have means and access to most of the luxuries we could only dream of, and or we could work towards, or we could think of working towards. They already have it, and most of the parents today have brought their kids up in a way, like we all are fortunate enough. At the same time, it's a bit of a risk for the Gen Zs, and it's very important for them to understand who they are, rather than losing themselves to these distractions or delusions. This theme, that's why this book becomes very important in the contemporary times, because yes, people want to progress. Gen Z wants to become, it's an age of startup. It's an age of, and startups, there are many distractions around. So you have to keep sane by first evaluating, finding yourself, and keeping that integrity alive throughout.
So, this novel is divided into three parts. So, each marking a phase of evolution. So, how did this structure help you, to form the story in a better way by dividing it into different parts?
So basically, the novel, it carefully, it's curated in a way that it pivots every phase of his evolution, of the protagonist's evolution, and that is what helps. Like, for example, I'm just telling you that it's divided in three parts: a journey to the, and it's done in a very subtle but clever way, and keeping our main elements of nature, like journey to the to the new lands like earth, journey into the new waters, that's the second, and journey to the skies. And so the earth, the water, and the sky are, these three are the elements who are so, which are very important for all of us. And I think that is how I, and also one of the reasons for doing it was, I don't know whether I should give it away, but the protagonist's name in this book, in this novel, is Hari. Very basically Hari. And in the first part, he remains Hari. In the second part, he becomes Harry. And not in the third, but eventually in the epilogue, he comes back to being Hari. So that's how it completes the complete circle of life, and that's how these sections, simulate that in a way.
It was insightful. So, how do you balance suspense along with adventure?
Well, I think there's no need to balance these two. It is just the book flows from adventure into suspense and mystery as well. I mean, there are elements of mystery, and they're very well blended. And in a way, I'm not saying out loud, but I think there is an attempt to kind of, make a modern classic, you know, uh, out of this book. And there are these elements have therefore been very carefully balanced. All these elements, and there is a at the background there is a, it's a kind of a romance that is happening in the backdrop, which is not at all vulgar, which is, in a good sense, which all, and at the same time there is a very important, underlying philosophical, intent, which is going throughout the novel. And it is very important to understand that, because I don't know, I should say it now, but I think I'll come to it with the next question.
Okay. So, did writing this book reveal any hidden patterns about your own life?
You're almost asking me whether this book has been picked up from real life events. And I would say that to some extent, yes. Most of the debut authors pick up things from real life events. But of course, like even in this case, there are very striking similarities and uncanny resemblance, I would say, between my life and this book, and which will make it very, although it comes in the fictional category, I would say it's a semi-fictional book, because there some of the incidences narrated in the book are almost as it happened. So it is very interesting and very intense as well. Some of the things, and it can keep the audience gripped, to continue till the end. Yes.
So now we move to our fun interactive session, which is finish the thought. So illusion becomes tempting when.
When you find yourself,
So true growth begins when.
I would say again when you find yourself, but true growth really begins when one understands that we cannot, we have to keep learning and unlearning what we already have learned. And that is when the true growth begins. And also, one more very important point which is in the book is that to let go, to let go of things, to forgive, to move on, or to justify certain injustices done to you in a more, in a more light way, by justifying it with some good things that have happened also with your life. So that's when the growth happens, and not get stuck. And if you don't do it, then you're stuck. Yes.
Being lost is sometimes necessary because.
To find yourself again, it's very important to be lost. And we often say it in a joking way. Let your hair loose. In the parties, or in the when we are having fun with friends. And that's because we just let ourselves loose in a very literal way, but in a metaphorical way, we are allowing our lives, or in fact somewhere up there, to stare our lives for us. And it is also a moment of exploration, you know and you let your life steer through these experiences and encounters that you may have, and eventually then only you can filter through it and find what is right for you.
Clarity often arrives when.
I think clarity often arrives when there is truth, when you face the truth, and when you also bring the truth within you outside. When you're true to yourself, And when you're true to other people, that is when clarity happens, I think.
Rising above chaos requires what?
I think, rising above chaos. As I mean, we have been saying this, that finding yourself. What is this? I mean, you know, um, rising above chaos is when you find that star within you. That is how the title has come up. You know, stars over the silhouette. Rising above that chaos is when it's very similar to when you say that find yourself, but find that star within you, and you will rise above that chaos. And uh, if you're going to ask me about the title, I can explain this a little more in depth.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to come to that question that, how did you arrive on the title Stars Over the Silhouette based on your story?
So this is a very interesting story because Stars of the Silhouette was a true calling in a way. When I was on my flight from Delhi to Sydney, there was a silhouette formed by the sun. It was dusk, and there were a bunch of stars which had just appeared fresh over that silhouette. And I was wondering that time that what is the fate of these stars, and whether they are going to shine throughout that night or whether they will fade away, or some of them will fade away. So I feel that all of us are like those stars, and unsure of our fates, whether we are going to shine through that night or we are going to fade away. Only those stars who find that star within themselves, they shine through that night or throughout the night. And this is the moral of the story through the title, that you have to find that star within you. We all are stars in our own right. If you're on this planet, you're a star. So first chase that, and then chase for the other stars, or which you are looking for. So I think that is how the title got developed, and that is where the relevance of stars and the star within you and finding yourself, it all comes together now. It's all connected.
That's interesting for our viewers also to know, how this title came up. So, as we come to the end of the session, I would just like to know who do you think will see themselves most clearly after reading this story?
I think right from the young minds to the young at heart, I think everybody, anyone will see themselves. It's not that this is a talisman for that after reading my book you're going to be like all clear in your minds, but will certainly give us, and it's a very positive book. It has a positive ending. I wanted deliberately to make it that way because youth looks for hope. you know if I mean and if it ends in a positive note in some way, then you always can relate your life to it and expect, or at least hope that something good is going to happen or unfold in your life. So I would say that it can give a lot of insight, not only to the Gen Z, but also even to the young at heart, as I said, uh, to go into their backflashes and to evaluate or reevaluate their lives, and maybe just end it with a smile. Yeah.
So this is a shout out to all the viewers and the audience here. You can purchase this book from Amazon, Story Mirror, Flipkart, everywhere, and get more clarity on your thoughts. Thank
Make it a
you.
big success. Make it a big success, guys. Yes. It deserves a big success. Yes.
Thank you, sir. So it was pleasure having you. Thank you.